The American Southwest is a place of profound distances. It's a landscape where the highway becomes a lifeline, a thin strip of asphalt laid across an ocean of dust and rock. Out there on those long-forgotten stretches of the old Mother Road, Route 66, the desert can feel less like a place and more like another dimension. This is the account of Clara, a 48-year-old journalist. A woman who dealt in facts, not folklore. She was on a solo cross-country drive, researching a book on the small towns left behind by the interstate system. She was driving a section of Route 66 in Arizona, well after midnight, when the storm hit. It wasn't rain. It was a sudden violent dust storm that turned the air to sandpaper. Her GPS signal died. The radio hissed and went silent. She was, in a word, blind. Disoriented and exhausted, she just kept driving, hoping to hit a town. And then she saw it. A weak, flickering neon sign, cutting through the dust. The sign didn't have a name. It just said, Motel. Clara was a meticulous researcher. She knew this stretch of highway. She had her maps. There should have been nothing here for another 50 miles. This place was not on the digital map, and it was not on her paper one. It didn't exist. But the dust was getting worse, and she was tired. What would you do when the only safety you can find is a place that shouldn't be there? She pulled her car into the gravel parking lot. Clara stepped out of the car. The wind stopped. Not gradually, but instantly. The silence was absolute. She walked into the lobby. It was a perfect time capsule from the 1950s. Everything was clean, but it was a dead clean. There was no smell of polish, or dust, or stale coffee. There was no smell at all. Behind the desk sat a man. He was elderly, wearing a string tie. He smiled, but his eyes didn't. Looking for a room? His voice was polite, but thin. Yes, Clara said, my GPS is down. Where exactly am I? The man just smiled. You're at the oasis, ma'am. You're safe from the storm. He pushed a registration card toward her. Just need you to sign. Cash only. The card machine and the Wi-Fi, they're temporarily down. Clara, too tired to argue, paid with the cash from her emergency kit. The man turned, retrieved a heavy, cold metal key, and handed it to her. Room 12. End of the walk. Sleep well. Clara walked to room 12. The room, like the lobby, was perfect. It was a museum of a 1950s motel room. Heavy wood furniture. A stiff, patterned quilt. A black, rotary dial telephone. But it was too perfect. There wasn't a single scuff mark on the desk. Not a speck of dust on the lampshade. She ran a finger along the windowsill. Clean. She turned on the old, tube-style television. It only emitted a loud, piercing static. She picked up the receiver of the phone to call the front desk. It was dead. Not even a dial tone. An uneasy, cold feeling settled in her stomach. She was a journalist. Her skepticism was her armor. She told herself it was just a well-maintained, off-grid motel. She walked to the window and pulled back the heavy curtain to check on her car, which she had parked directly in front of the door. The parking lot was there. The gravel was there. Her car was gone. What goes through your mind in that moment? Is this an elaborate, cruel prank? Or is it the first sickening realization that you are no longer where you are supposed to be? We'd be interested to know what your first instinct would be. Thank you for staying with us on this journey into the unknown. Clara's story is a chilling one, and your attention allows us to explore these myths of the road. But the most terrifying discovery was not in the empty parking lot. It was on the other side of her door. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. She fumbled with the lock, her hands shaking. She threw the door open, expecting to run out into the night. But she wasn't looking at the parking lot. She was looking at an indoor hallway. A long, narrow, carpeted hallway, lit by dim, flickering wall sconces. It was impossible. She had walked to her room from the outside. She ran back to the window. It was still there, showing the empty, dark parking lot. But the door opened to somewhere else. The hallway was lined with the same ugly, floral wallpaper. It stretched in both directions until it was swallowed by shadow. It was an endless, warping corridor, a feature of supernatural traps whispered about in roadside legends. She yelled, "Hello? Is anyone there?" Her voice sounded wrong. Muffled. As if the air was too thick to carry it. She took a hesitant step into the hall. The door to room 12 clicked shut behind her. She tried the knob. Locked. She was trapped. She started to run. As she ran, she heard another door open behind her. She glanced back. A man in a 1970s-style suit stepped out of room 7. He looked pale, confused. He looked directly through Clara, as if she were a ghost, and began walking quickly down the hall. He turned a corner that Clara was certain had not been there 1 second before. Clara fled in the opposite direction. The hallway seemed to stretch. She ran until her lungs burned, and finally saw a door at the far end. It was marked staff only. She burst through it. She was in the manager's office. The office from the lobby. But it was empty. The man was gone. On the desk, under a green banker's lamp, was a large leather-bound guest ledger. She opened it. It was filled with names. The first entry was dated May 14, 1953. The handwriting was neat, precise. She scanned the entries, page after page, year after year. Then she saw it. A column on the right-hand side of the page. It was labeled, Checkout. Every single line was blank. She flipped to the very last page. There, at the bottom, was the final entry. The ink was still fresh. It was her name. Clara. Room 12. And beside it, in the checkout column, a single word had been written in the same neat script. Pending. Clara's blood ran cold. She realized this place wasn't just a motel. It was a collection. And no one ever checked out. Panic gave way to a cold, journalistic focus. She had to find a way out. In the office, tacked to a corkboard, she found a hand-drawn yellowed map of the building. It looked like a fire evacuation plan. But the layout was impossible. The hallways looped back on themselves. Corridors ended in solid walls. It was a maze. Then she saw it. In the corner of the map, a small hand-drawn arrow pointed to a door at the end of the east wing. It was labeled, Ice Door. She ran back into the impossible hallway, this time with purpose. She followed the map in her mind, taking turns that didn't feel right. The motel fought her. The hallway seemed to get longer. Finally, she saw it. A metal door, just like one for a commercial ice machine. She grabbed the handle and pulled. It wasn't a machine. It was a void. A cold, dark emptiness. She heard the sound of a key in a lock behind her. The manager was coming. Clara took a breath and stepped into the darkness. She wasn't falling. She was tumbling. And then she was on her hands and knees, coughing, on the cold sand of the desert. She looked up. The sun was beginning to rise, painting the sky in shades of purple and orange. She turned around. The Oasis Motel was gone. There was nothing. No building. No sign. Just the empty, stretching desert. And in the distance, down the highway, she saw her car, pulled over on the side of the road, exactly where her GPS had first cut out. Clara walked for 3 hours until she reached her car. When she finally got to the next town, she reported the incident to the local police. They were polite, but dismissive. They blamed it on the dust storm, on highway hypnosis, a very real phenomenon where a driver can enter a dissociative state. They said she likely pulled over, fell asleep in her car, and had a vivid nightmare. But Clara, the skeptic, the journalist, knew what she had seen. And she had proof. Proof she never showed the police. In the pocket of her jacket, cold against her skin, was the heavy metal key to room 12. What was the Oasis Motel? A trap, existing outside of time? A purgatory for travelers lost on the Mother Road? Or was it, as the police suggested, just a mirage brought on by exhaustion? And if it was real, what do you think would happen if she ever tried to use that key again? Share your theories in the comments below. Thank you for joining us at Backpacker Stories. If you believe that the highway holds more than just pavement and mile markers, subscribe to our channel. We are not a travel vlog, we are a space for the myths born on the open road. Lace up your boots, and click the video on your screen for our next tale.